All right, all right, all right. Welcome to the Real Money Coach Show here. I'm coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I need to know where you are watching from, what part of the country. I see y'all coming in. I see you there. Let me know. Put in the chat. We got to be active tonight. I need to know where y'all are watching from. Matter of fact, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this in honor of my guest, my co-host is coming on. I want you to put in the chat right now what city you watching from and what is the temperature? What is the temperature? What is the degrees? Just tell me how warm it is, how cold it is. I'm going to even do it. I'm going to show y'all how I'm going to do it, all right? So I'm going to get on my phone here, y'all, and I'm going to put in the chat. You know that's gonna come up as Real Money Coach Show, but y'all know it's me. All right, Charlotte, right? Charlotte, North Carolina, and it is 58 degrees. 58 degrees. So put in something happened. Failed to pose. What is that? You've been temporarily blocked from performing this action. What is that all about? Looks like all right, pretty brown talk. It's 69 in Augusta, Georgia. I'm not really sure you all we have. It looks like Dante. I don't know if you saw anything, but it looks like that there's some issues with the whole Facebook side. Not sure what's going on there, but I'm sure that we will get it all figured out. So listen, look, y'all may be able to guess tonight that my special guest tonight is from Augusta, Georgia, because we got people from Augusta coming on in. They ain't even playing with y'all. They're like, we showing up for our boy, right? We're showing up for this guy tonight, and we'll tell you a little bit more about him in a few minutes. But in the meantime, let's do this. Let's bring my co-host, Michelle Mitchell, on the screen, on the stage, and let's have a little conversation. Hey, Michelle.
Good evening, Tony. How are you?
I'm good. You ain't put in the chat. You didn't put in the chat. You didn't put in the
I
chat.
can't comment in the chat.
Yeah, you can.
No, I can't. I can only
Really?
do the private chat.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
It doesn't let you post in the chat?
No.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
We got to get you like an administrative profile or
I
something.
know. So right.
Look, Kimberly McGuinn is from Charlotte. She said it's cold.
It's cold.
She said it's cold. Now I got 58 degrees.
Kimberly, I'm telling you, you're not cold. I promise you. You want me to show him, Tony?
I want you to show him.
This is the temperature where I live.
Boom, 9 degrees.
It's 9 degrees.
Yeah, that's cold.
Kimberly, that's cold.
That's cold. That's cold.
Hey, my friend Claudia, what's up?
You know Claudia.
I do know Claudia.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Michelle, tell me something. I want to know a little something before we get into all what's wrong in the world, right?
Right.
Tell me about this little new nephew of yours.
Yes, I'm a great auntie.
Great aunt. Is this the first great?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. He was born on Sunday.
Born
We were waiting all weekend out for him, and he finally came.
He finally came on Sunday.
Yes.
I saw the picture. He's a cute little fella.
Yes. Elliot Caden.
Elliot Caden.
He looks like the Clements. So
he looks like the Clements.
Beautiful.
I heard that. I heard Derek was on our call on Monday night. Derek said that he looks just like me. He looks just like me.
He looks just like Derek. Yes, he does.
Really? So he wasn't just saying that. That was true.
He wasn't just saying that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you guys.
Yes. So is it gonna be Aunt Michelle? Is it gonna be two mama? What's it gonna be?
The rest of they call me TT.
They call you TT? Okay.
They call me TT.
So for those of you who may not know, who may be watching for the first time, Michelle and I go back till we were 18 years old in college. Michelle is my wife's best friend, and my children refer to her, or my grandchildren, I guess. My kids call her Aunt Michelle, but my
Yes,
grandkids call her Two Mama. Right.
that's
So
right.
that's
Yes,
a title of affection and love. Right.
it is. It's a very endearing name because
Very
I
endearing
love
name.
my two mama, and my two
Yeah, Two
mama is
Mama is special. How old is Two Mama
92.
now?
She is
92 years old.
92. Mm-hmm.
So
I
awesome.
love my two mama.
So Michelle, what do you got going on? What you got going for the people in terms of how they can turn their passion into profit and all that kind of
That's
stuff? What's
right.
happening?
Passion to Profit is live. The cart is open. You can join now our 12-week program for entrepreneurs to help take your business to the next level, really. Is some of the tried and true strategies, principles, and frameworks that I have used in my own business to build it to where it is today. And I am giving away all the goods in Passion to Profit. So um, join now. I'm teaching it live every Wednesday at 11 a.m.
So it's 11 a.m. every
Yep.
Wednesday,
Hmm.
live via, it's going to be via Zoom, Facebook, but I know you got to be registered to attend and all
Yes.
that kind of good stuff. And I think we got the registration link that we can
Yep.
share in the private chat, so we'll bring that up as well. So just give us a little snippet. Oh, you know what? I didn't even recognize the folks. Like we got Claudia, we got
Oh,
Kimberly,
it's a
we
lot of
got
people
Pretty
today.
Brown Talk here. We
Dr.
got
Benita.
Bonita Harris is in the house. Alice Martin. Alice Martin says she got 57 degrees for Charlotte across
Ooh,
town. Let's see who else we got in here. Charm, if I'm saying that right. And so thank you all for tuning in tonight. We got a great show for you. We're going to share some great information with you from our special guest, Mr. Hawthorne Welcher is going to be with us. If you caught him on the radio show, which does come on every Saturday morning at 7:30 a.m. Here in the Charlotte area or everywhere that you get your broadcast. So he was our guest on there, and it was pretty awesome. And there's the link for Michelle's program. It is right there on the screen. Make sure you take a screenshot of that, copy it out to chat or whatever you need to do. But register for Passion to Profit. And that's one of my favorite things. I use that all the time, Michelle.
do
You got
you?
to earn your passion to profit, right?
Yeah.
I heard somebody say that. So I think that's a pretty awesome model. That's
Yes.
a whatever you want to. I'm trying to think the proper name, but I love that passion to profit, right?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so Michelle,
Yes.
what is going on in our world today? I
Man, I
mean,
don't know. I've been disconnected, but oh,
you've been
don't
disconnected.
I
I
have.
tell you, it's really kind of sad. It's really kind
It
of
is
sad.
sad. I know what
And
you're talking
I
about.
think maybe we'll unpack this with our guest tonight because he's a Morehouse man, so he might have some intellectual thoughts about that. Uh,
Yes.
but it's really kind of sad what's going on,
Hmm.
and I mean we keep saying it, right? I mean
Hmm.
it's there's some new things about this particular beating in terms of because it was 5 Black officers
Yes.
primarily, although we know
Hmm.
that there's others that were involved that don't seem to be getting the same treatment
Hmm.
legally uh,
Right.
as the 5 Black officers and all this kind of stuff. And so we can have a great discussion surrounding that. But yeah, it's really kind of too bad.
Yeah.
So
My heart goes out to his mother. Like
absolutely.
mothers are taking the brunt of this because these are their children, you know?
Mm.
And we are so protective of our children. And we can't, like, our hands are tied. Like, we can't do anything. We tell our kids respect authority, and they do. And then they get, then they end up dead anyway.
Well, and it's just like you concern when they leave the house, right?
Yes, always.
And you have a son,
Mm-hmm.
I got two sons, and I think
Mm-hmm.
about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that that's something that everybody understands.
Yes.
um, and of course, moms
Mm-hmm.
probably have another level of emotional
Yeah.
worry or what have you
Mm-hmm.
than fathers sometimes. But we're concerned about our young men, and
Mm-hmm.
and of course it can happen to our girls as well. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's
Yeah.
other things that are happening
Mm-hmm.
that we really need to be prayerful about, like the sex trafficking and some of these
Yep.
type of things that are happening. But we're living in this time and age where, I mean, if nothing else, we need prayer for sure, right?
For
So
sure.
thank you, Gail Thomas, for joining us from Philadelphia,
Ooh,
PA. Love that, Philadelphia,
welcome,
PA.
Philly.
So we haven't had too many people from Philly
I
on.
know we have it.
We got a
Yeah.
little Philly in the house.
Yeah.
Let's say this: Go Eagles, right? I'm pulling for the Eagles. Like, I'm sorry, Kansas City fans, if y'all don't like it, but I'm pulling for Jalen Hurst, man. I
Who
would
won?
like to
Who
see.
won? Who gonna be in the Super Bowl?
Michelle, are you really married to my good friend Tony Mitchell, and you
I
do not
am.
know this? Kansas
Yeah.
City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay. Cool.
Now, you know what's cool about it is this is the first Super Bowl where you have two black starting quarterbacks.
Ooh, interesting. Oh, good.
Yeah. Hmm.
I like that.
See, I give you a little line, a little
Yeah.
twist that you can,
Yeah.
kind of explore here. So,
Yeah.
but listen, we can chat on that. I want to go ahead and bring Hawthorne on the stage. But let me tell you about Hawthorne. He is the director of housing and community development in Augusta, Georgia, responsible for overseeing planning, implementation of federal, state, local funding, benefiting the underserved businesses and nonprofit community of Augusta. And you
Mhm.
know Augusta, I love Augusta um, because that's where James Brown is from. Everybody knows James Brown is from Augusta, Georgia, the godfather of soul, right?
Right.
That great prophet from down Highway 20. But I do like Augusta. I've had some great appointments, clients there. But the other thing that we're going to really get a chance to unpack, and this is directly from his bio that was given to me, not by him, but by someone who knows him. He says Hawthorne is a servant leader who believes in uplifting his community through education and mentorship. He is the founder of a nonprofit organization called Left Handed Principles,
Mm.
which is focused on empowering boys and young men to be positive and productive members of society. And so,
I like that.
with no further ado, let's bring on Hawthorne Welcher to the stage. Hey, bro, how you doing?
Welcome.
Tony, Michelle,
Hey, doing well.
I bid you a great evening, and
Yes, sir. Yes,
bid you
sir.
a great evening from the great city of Augusta, Georgia, where it's 60+ degrees. So don't know about the nine, don't know about the nine, but I definitely can tell you about the 60. How you all doing this evening?
Well,
Doing well.
and I forgot to mention this, and I really intended to do it, is that, I mean, there's a lot of guests that come on my show that I never really get a chance to meet in person. And Hawthorne happened to come by a business conference that I was speaking at in
Oh,
Atlanta on Saturday. I was like, wait a minute, that dude just walked in the door. I know that dude, right? And it was Hawthorne who walked in. So we got a chance to meet unplanned Tuesday. And this is just a good dude. I mean, you know how you can meet somebody, Michelle, and you just know that they're a good person, right?
yes.
And that's kind of how I felt about Hawthorne when he walked in the room, and got a chance to meet him. So, man, welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you all for having me.
Welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Hawthorne, what I want to do, man, and I think we want to deal with the elephant in the room, right? We want to deal with what's going on in terms of what happened in Memphis and all that. But before we get into that discussion, I wanted to just first deal with a little bit of this affordable housing. Give us a little background, your background, and then let's talk about affordable housing a little bit, because our last few shows, we've had realtors, we've had real estate investors, we've had mortgage brokers, and I have in the last few weeks spent a couple meetings with Don Peoples, who is a luxury housing developer, talking also about Birmingham 51 degrees. I know who that is. That's my man. That's Harvey Jones right there, right? So, but I want to talk about it. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. Then we're gonna come back and discuss that affordable housing issue.
So, of course, Hawthorne Welcher Jr., born and raised, from Augusta, Georgia, attended this little school at 830 West Street Drive in Atlanta, Georgia, known as Morehouse College. I always like to tell people, school of Denzel Washington, Samuel Jackson, Martin Luther King, and Hawthorne Welcher. Can't forget about Hawthorne Welcher.
There you go.
So I think with that, from a standpoint of life give, or life's concessions in regards to exactly how you're going to make your mark, I really didn't know. One thing I did know was some of the job offers that I had, as far as the Southwest, was the fact that I had a younger brother named Trevor Welcher who I wanted to sort of buy into and employ into and give back to him being 13 years younger than me. So I accepted a job here, closer to home. A lot of times I always tell people talk about the greatest gifts that they've been given. Some people talk about money, some people talk about cars. The greatest gift that I've ever been given is the gift of the art of knowing how to formulate community economic development. And I think that made me exactly the man in the profession that I am today, and the reason why I'm ready to give more.
Awesome. So tell me what type of things, what kind of projects and that type of things from an affordable housing standpoint have been happening around Augusta.
So I think the biggest thing when you talk about affordable housing, a lot of times people is synonymous. People think about poor people, but I think about what I talk about is, for me, it's all about the least of us all. And I've given my life 25 years in working with an organization known as HUD. You're familiar with that? Absolutely. Where public housing, or the project as some people call them, I've been able to delve into Section 8. But I've also been very, very fortunate and blessed to be able to work with teams over in Aiken, South Carolina, and now in Augusta, Georgia. I want to be sure everybody understands that housing is where I am. Housing is where I'm still going to stay. We actually move forward in some other areas. But I think when you look at community economic development, for me, it's not just about housing and building houses, but I have adopted a philosophy. I'm very grateful to have a team that has sort of backed me in this philosophy. And this philosophy really speaks to community economic development, to be sure that we're not Moses, I'm not Jesus, but any city that my hands, my brain, and my team touches, we want to be sure that we're not only providing adequate housing for anybody that wants to come, that we're also helping the small business owner to not only create, but to develop and to sustain. We also want to be sure that in the areas and communities that we work in, we want to be sure that we're bringing healthy food choices, grocery stores. We got to have the transportation, and last but not least, we got to create jobs. So I've given my life, and will continue forever to give my life to that philosophy of community economic development.
Love it, man. I love it. I know one of the things when we did the radio interview, so often when we hear affordable housing, it's like you mentioned, the thought is low income, right?
Right.
And normally the thought is rental units,
Right.
Maybe townhouses, apartments, senior living quarters, those type of things. And I've said this for a long time. People talk about housing here in Charlotte, and I'm like, Charlotte doesn't have a housing problem. There's plenty of houses.
Right.
The problem we have is affordable housing. And what I want to kind of pick your brain on, because you mentioned this, is your exact words, like to see a family, a mother, cut that ribbon, be able to move into this house as an owner. As an owner, that's where we should be talking about affordable housing. Houses where people that are making, a working wage every day, going to work on the grind, can actually own a house. So unpack that for me, man. Just
So honestly, as organizations such as myself, Augusta Housing and Community Development Department, and other community development departments across this great state and across this great country, we stand in that gap. We're gap fillers. What does that mean? So that basically means that, just say we are developing homes for $140,000, where the family, based on their income and their credit, they're doing everything that they're supposed to do. But based on their income and their credit, and especially in this society, in this day and age where we're talking about inflation, the cost of lumber, the cost of this 2x4 to build this public housing unit is the same cost of this 2x4 to build this $500,000 house. So what happens is, our people, our communities that we serve, they're the ones who suffer. So I see a heart going across. So we got to have a heart for continuing to try to build these cities. So we still in this gap, house $140,000. The family has done everything necessary from a credit and an income perspective, and they can only qualify for $120,000. So what happens? So what happens is up to constituents like us, is up to like myself and like my team and others across the country to do what? To formulate and be innovative and create plans, to create and down payment assistance plans that say, hey, you family, you're going to be blessed on this day. We're going to take you from Egypt. Come on, Tony and Michelle. We're going to take you from Egypt, and we're going to bring you over here to the land of milk and honey, because what we're going to do is give you this honey. We're going to give you the $20,000, but we're going to give it to you not as a grant, but as a deferred forgivable loan with no repayment, no interest. So as long as you stay in this house for 5 years, 20% is forgiven each year. That's how you build wealth. That's how you build generational wealth. And that's how you build equity day one.
And community. And community.
Community. Absolutely. And community is so important, Michelle. I'm glad you said that. So important. Community is for real. So let me ask you, in your tenure and your expertise, how are you dealing? What's your feelings on like? I mean, the thing that comes to mind is we know that National City Bank in California just got hit with $31 million, $3.1 million settlement because of redlining, from 2017 to 2000. We've talked about programs like the one that Bank of America has and other banking institutions. So how do you deal with the banking? How do you deal with that side of it in terms of getting them to maybe at times loosen the criteria or so that more people can get into homes?
So I think you have to basically create a model where you're actually begging the banks to really work with you. And by that, what I mean is, we're not on our begging knees, for the banks, but we're looking for the banks to sort of work with us in a way based on the products that we've sort of created. And one of the things that's the biggest thing in America that I know that regardless of where you are, that there's no more of, that God is not creating any more of, and that's land.
Yeah,
that's right.
So you can't build on that which you don't own. So based on what we do from a strategic standpoint, developmental plan perspective, when we know that we're going to work in respective areas, we're very quietly, very strategic, 3 or 4 years ahead of forecasting, and we're acquiring property in those areas that we know are going to be revitalized. And I think based on that, once we own the land, then typically what we can do is in that deal that I just talked about for $140,000, guess what? The land may be $15,000 or $20,000, but I didn't put the land, so I don't have to infuse the land into the deal. Right. So that way it makes it affordable for that family. Also with that, when we talk about the banks, we want to be sure that the banks can give, and the banks that we work with, they're not stressed, but at the same time, they do stretch. Not stressed, but they stretch. I just freestyle on that. So everybody else will catch that one later. But at the end of the day, that's why we create these products. And I keep in mind the down payment products that I'm talking about, where we're giving $25,000. Two things, two rules of thumb, two different things, the yin and the yang. in areas that we're revitalizing, you know those areas, those hood areas that you all want to come back. We're not even gonna get into the G word tonight. Not gonna leave that word alone. But in some of those areas, when you come in and you're trying to revitalize, of course, you still have crime. You still have pretty much the redlining going on where the banks really say that they're higher risk. Then there's no transportation. There are food scarcity, those things. So typically in those situations, to get persons or owners to buy in, you got to give more than $25,000. You might have to give up to $35,000, $40,000 and get people to entice. And I know for a fact because we've done it and it works. Try Laney Walker Bethlehem here in Augusta, Georgia, 1,100 acres. Come try that. Come visit James Brown statue, but also stop by Laney Walker Boulevard, the heartbeat of this revitalization project. I got my red on, so come to the heartbeat. Come, we need you to come. Laney Walker Boulevard is that heartbeat. But on the reciprocal side, when I say yin and a yang, we also want to be sure that while we're giving $45,000 to areas to entice, to be sure we do what? Transform neighborhoods and bring back the livability. We also, on some aspects, don't necessarily have to give that much. But what we want to do is tell the bank, hey, we want to be valid partners. So we need for you to truly make a commitment. And based on your commitment, you can understand a couple of things. That we would try to keep the cost as low as possible. Now, keep in mind, one thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to undervalue our neighborhoods. Right. One thing I think that's very important is the fact that we have to stand in the gap, because this is the thing. It's not just about the new home ownership, new houses. It's also about the little Miss Mabels who are getting caught up. See, the little Miss Mabels, nobody wants to talk about. Everybody want to talk about a new shiny red toy, the new house, 3-4 bedroom house. Everybody wants to talk about the new grocery store that comes to the area. But what about little Miss Mabel, who only gets $1,000 a month? And she has to make a decision whether she's going to pay her mortgage, whether she's going to get groceries, or whether they're actually get their medicines as well. So I think from our standpoint, we have to familiarize ourselves. We're truly going to be professionals of the trade. Then it can't be a job. Excuse my grammatical regression. It cannot just be a career. It has to be pretty much a life lesson and a passion.
Well, man, I really feel your passion on this, and it's ministry, right? It's all of that. And one of the things that I wanted to ask about as you were talking is when you talk about Miss Mabel, right? When thinking about, you can call it whatever you want, regentrification, those type of things. That they changed the name over the years, just like they do everything else. But is there anything that you guys do from a political standpoint or a PAC standpoint? I know you were just in Washington, D.C. Is there anything that's being done to protect those homeowners, those homesteads that have been pillars of the community, that somebody comes along and offer them $100,000, and because of the situation you just mentioned, living off of $1,000, they jump on that, and next thing you know that you sold that property for $100,000, and now they build $500,000 house on that lot. Yeah. So what's going on in there? Is there anything that you guys do in terms of that?
We actually do. I mean, for me, the mindset, the mantra is, of course, the least of us all. I mean, we're all the same. So I dare not come into any area, into any community, and develop and shovel any dirt, any property, and build $250,000, $140,000 homes, and not look at my little Miss Mabel. So one of the things that we're doing, if we're in areas and we're developing in those areas, then those little Miss Mabels or Mr. Martins of the world, they automatically are what I deem to be priorities. Where we know for a standpoint, they're not looking to buy new homes. They may have been in their homes 30, 40, 50 years. But a couple of things that we are doing, we work hand in hand with our tax commissioner's office from a homestead perspective to be sure that at public meetings, at public breakfasts, they understand, because you can't go back. You can't go back. It's not retro. I mean, it is, based on what it is at that time. So we work to be sure that they understand that they're filling out those applications. But I think the biggest thing that we're doing is we're also providing them, they go to the top of the list of our homeowner rehabilitation program.
Got it.
So if I'm building new homes in the area, I dare not just skate and work around you. We're going to be sure that at least from an exterior perspective, that we're enhancing pretty much your siding, your roofing, your windows, and those things to be sure that you fit in and you all are complemented. Everybody complements everything. And what we like to do for the most part, we really like to develop mixed income type developments. Everybody knows the word mixed use, but a mixed income type developments where for the most part we'll have, and we have these best practices. I feel like we have some of the best practices across the region, across the country. We're on a street known as Pine Street, 25 single family houses. We have doctors living right next door to the janitorial workers. And at the same time, all the first home that we sold back in 2010 on this street sold for $127,000. And Michelle, we gave $40,000 in down payment closing costs. Well, you'll be happy to know on this same street, a year ago, the last home sold for about $240,000. So we know it works. We know community economic development. And for me, it's all about just teaching and standing in the gap to be sure that there is a protection and that we're truly building back community in our neighborhood.
Well, okay, here's my question. If I'm sitting here and I'm watching this tonight, Hawthorne, I'm watching this program and I'm a renter and I want to own a home and I'm hearing you, right? And I'm getting excited about everything that you're saying. What steps would you tell someone watching tonight that wants to move in that direction? I think it froze up.
I think he did too.
You're gonna freeze up with a fire behind you.
Right. It's not crackling.
It's not crackling.
Right.
He's gonna come back. He'll
be back.
Yeah. You know, Michelle, as he was talking though, I love people who are passionate about what they're doing. And you can feel his passion.
You can
about what he's doing. He's someone that your Tony could sit down with. They can
my Tony can talk to him all day.
All day long.
Because that's what he does. That's his passion. Community and economic development. Yes.
Absolutely. So Hawthorne, did you hear my question about if someone's watching and they're a renter or what have you, and they have this dream of home ownership? What would you tell them? What advice would you give them this evening?
So I think what I would tell them is first, congratulations on dreaming. Let's not be sure that we don't have a dream deferred, but at the same time, let's be sure we don't have a dream that's just put on the shelf. So the first thing that I tell people, remain excited, be excited, but at the same time, let's use common sense and let's use calmness. What does that mean? So basically what that means is let's not put the cart before the horse, which we all do. We go out and we fall in love with this $275,000 house. But we have yet to grace our feet on the inside of any financial institution. So, let's go to the bank first, have the conversation with the bank based on your income and your credit. Let's get pre-qualified. So that way you're not wasting your time and now you got a heartache and you've fallen out of love and you feel like you've been dumped. So let's find out, the bank based on your income and your credit, your family income and credit, find out they qualify for $250,000. Also, I would also say, let's make it easy. Let's take that $250,000, do your homework, but let's decide on a realtor. Let the realtor do the work for you. Of course, they can go to an MLS listing, but at the same time, they have various relationships. You share with them your characteristics of the house that you want. You share with them pretty much your price range. And basically what is called is diversification. So while you're working, or while you're doing at the gym and doing other things, you're steadily hitting your phone and infiltrating your phone. So that way, I feel as though that's the best thing. I see a lot of times, a lot of people put the cart before the horse and they fall in love. And then the bank, and it's too big of a gap. So be sure that you're pre-qualified first. And then based on that, secure a realtor to sort of help you and aid you along the way. And then I think you'll be very successful.
Awesome. Awesome. Any involvement with NECA at all?
Yeah. So we definitely work with, so our programs, we work with NAC, we work with all financial institutions. And one of the things that I really love about NACA's program is the fact that, of course, we still can give out $25,000. And basically what it does for a homeowner, allows for the homeowner to be able to buy down the interest rate.
Yeah, when they're using that program.
Right.
Absolutely.
So for me, all of it is affordable. When we say affordable, I say affordable and workforce housing. In Augusta, Georgia, when you start talking about affordable housing, we're talking about houses from about 85,000 up to about 140. Now you can't build a new house for 85,000, but that would be a house I would acquire and rehab and then sell it. And then we talk about workforce houses from about 140,000 up to about 200,000. Because what happens in the world of HUD, like in Augusta, Georgia, HUD says that you can provide federal funding to a one-person household who makes $45,000 a year or less. And then it goes up on a scale of like eight family members and those things. And then what happens is, so what about the one person who makes $50,000? They're not too far away from the 46, but that's the gap that we're talking about. It's called workforce housing. Those people who are 81% to about 130%, there are no structured instruments for them. So what we did here in Augusta, the city of Augusta issued bonds to say, hey, you can work in this certain area to revitalize the area, but you could also provide down payment and closing costs. It does not really matter exactly what a family's income is. So we're being very creative. And, one of the things that I've done in Washington, serving on the National Community Development Association's national board, is to be sure that we can bring some of these best practices and share them across the country. Another big thing about going to Washington is not just pretty much going out and hanging out in Chocolate City, as they call it, but it is about going to the Capitol and making sure that they understand when we talk about affordable housing, we're talking about homelessness as well. Right. When we talk about affordable housing, we're talking about those persons who have HIV and AIDS as well. When we talk about affordable housing, we're talking about pretty much those seniors who need pretty much more than enough money to be able to do rehab. So we're just very blessed, but trying to be very innovative and creative and trying to continue to stand in the gap for all cities.
You're preaching tonight, brother. I love it.
Great freestyle.
Yeah, let's change gears a little bit. I love everything that you're sharing, and I'm watching it, right? Because even in this last bill, there's money for combating homelessness and all these type of things that are in it. Ultimately it comes down to people who are taking those funds and implementing it. If they have the passion like you have, they can really make a difference. But on that tune of making a difference, I know you have a nonprofit, right? And the nonprofit is Left-Handed Principles. And I got a chance to ask you privately, where did that come from? And you really brought some things to mind. I have a sister who's left-handed. My wife right now is left-handed because she had shoulder surgery, so she can only use the one. So tell us a little bit about Left-Handed Principles, and I want to make sure that you touch in on what that name means. How did that come about? Because I think that's important.
So Left-Handed Principles. If you didn't guess by now, I am left-handed, and I think it goes back. I'm a visual person, so it goes back to all of us. Everybody can just go to think back when we were in grade school, and you remember in the back of the classroom, there were like maybe 2 or maybe 3 left-handed desks that you pushed to the back of the classroom because everybody, for the most part, was right-handed. Well, that offended me. Tony and Michelle, that offended me. I'm not right. So why? So from that standpoint, when you start talking about left-handed, it's an alternative. For the most part, alternative way of thinking from a principles perspective. I do feel as though, left-handers, for a lot of reasons, we have been at disadvantage. If you think about driving a stick shift. So I had to learn how to drive a stick shift for the most part, with my right hand.
Yeah.
And if you think about why does the mouse, when you buy a computer, why is it automatically set for right-handers? So for me, I can go on and on and on. And these are things that you just don't think about, but these are things, as left-handed, we just had the ability to be able to adaptation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think from that, for me, it was all about alternative adaptation, different way of thinking. And when I talked about left-handed principles, for the most part, the motto is save the son, save the city. And in that so synonymous with what we're dealing with in Memphis right now, when we start talking about saving the son and save the city. Now, son is synonymous with daughter. Son is synonymous with community. And I think from that perspective, when we look at it, I've given my life, as we've talked about, to community transformation, and I'm going to continue to do that. But I think what I want to do now is teach persons how to self-brand. I want to be sure that as I've given my life to community transformation, now I want to build skill sets on point, on purpose, by promoting self-love. Self-help is the first help. Yep. Self-love, self-purpose, self-worth equals selflessness. Right. And what I'm doing right now is really what I want to teach. I'm just freestyling. So one of the things that is very important to, especially our young guys and our young girls who watch all this, well, it was BET, MTV for us back in the day. Watch all these videos and those things. They see people freestyling. And I'm trying to teach, well, you can freestyle in that chosen field of human endeavor. Mm-hmm. Right. And once you get there, now we can truly be at the table, really to set policy and make differences in some of these cities that needs to take place.
Wow. So left-handed principles, and so what give us, if you don't mind, man, just give us your take on what we've all seen and been talking about that did happen in Memphis. I mean, that's the elephant in the room. You as a founder of a nonprofit, Save the Son, Save the City, right? So kind of give us a little insight of from your perspective, what your thoughts are on it.
So I think for me, it is all about leveling up, and it is all about, when I say that, it's all about, some things, are going to be some things, but I think from a African American perspective, as well as just from a man perspective, and from a man in leadership perspective, we all know there's an era of expectancy, but beyond the cliche and the rhetoric and those things, for me, it is truly, all about being sure that we are building skill sets that sustain, to be sure that from a standpoint, we are doing a couple things. That when we talk about our youth and we talk about our men, one of the things that I think, is missing is the fact that I want to be sure that from a personal standpoint, that they are truly in a position to be able to articulate. So some of the services and things that I think fit directly in, when you start talking about dress right dressing, and you have to earn the right, in my opinion, to be able to walk into a room with earrings and a ball cap on backwards. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing it with a suit jacket on. And I say that because you can't have on a $400 ensemble with a 40-cent mouth. It just won't work. Right. That just won't work. So when I say leveling up, we want to be sure that as things happen in various cities and counties across the country, that we are in positions to be able to truly make change. But the only way you get there is, you can't learn things on the job when it's time to do the job. You got to know the job. So at the end of the day, we all have to be sure that we're actually staying in study. And I think from that standpoint, not only the fact of being able to dress right, understanding dress, but it's also about the ability to be able to articulate, to be able to understand elevator talk, to be able to understand exactly before the meeting talk, to be able to hold a conversation without looking down, to be able to listen first, digest, and be able to quickly come to a response that makes sense, but at the same time does not trip on, anybody's religion, anybody's creed, and those things. And I think that's one of the things that I want to be sure that we do. We have to move forward the social etiquette component and the business etiquette component of our men as well as our sons. And I think if we do that from that perspective, because the thing about it is all about making a change. I'm not a pastor, I'm not a prophet, I'm a trustee. But based on that, if you go back, as I indicated, when you start talking about Moses, and there's a choice. You know, we do want to lead people out of the land of Egypt, but at the same time, I don't want to be the one I want to be the one in the room at the table from a respect standpoint. And you're going to respect me. And I'm never going to apologize for being great, but you're going to respect me for one reason only, because of my ability to be able to articulate, which is true power.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it forces people to respect you. I mean, if you come in and you know what you're talking about, you know your stuff, you on your A game, right? It kind of forces the hand. I mean, they're either going to have to be overtly blatant, right? Or they're going to have to give you the respect that you deserve. And we know that could go either way. So what type of things are you doing, and do you envision doing with left-handed principles now?
So some of the services, glad that you asked that question. Some of the services that we definitely will employ, they're really 10 right now. So the first two, so to speak, to nonprofit formulation and nonprofit sustainment. A lot of times I see a lot of businesses, they are not setting that foundation.
Ooh.
And when that tornado comes, the infrastructure is not set, because they want to get out there so fast. So they're not taking the time from a formulation of the correct documents. They're not taking the time to be able to be sure they have the right bank accounts. And they're not taking the time to be sure that they're working with publicists to be able to sort of promote and help them promote. They're not taking the time to put the proper website out and those things. So these are the type things that when we start talking about formulation of nonprofits and for-profits that I've seen across the country. And then when you move forward over to the sustainment piece, knowing how to read performance, knowing how to read budgets, knowing how to forecast from a year to 3 to 5 years. I'm saying. So if you know that there is inflation, and and if you know that your bottom line from expense standpoint is $8,000 a month, so you need to look at pretty much all the products and services that you're providing from a revenue standpoint. Everybody don't know, but your revenues minus your expenses. Now I can get into your debt service, my operating expenses is going to yield a profit or a loss. So for me, being able to sort of help, because once again, it's not about the creation of, it's about the sustainment of. So that's one service, helping nonprofits and for-profits sort of forecast. Another one is inspirational speaking. If you haven't noticed, I'm very passionate about just being passionate, but I do stay in my lane.
He said, I love that. I'm passionate about being passionate.
Just passionate about, I stay in my lane. So what I've done is we've created 3 or 4 different speaking inspirational teachings. One, I'll call it 50 slides of greatness. So I give you one of those slides. One of those slides is, if I ask you what Air Force, what is Air, what would you say? A lot of people is going to say the president's plane, which is wrong. Air Force One is any plane that the president steps on ascends to the signal of Air Force One. What does that mean? That means that the power is not with the object, it's with the person.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that when we start talking about 50 slides of greatness. So that's one service. Another service is instructional teaching. Dress right, dress one, but then also, check this out, Tony Michelle. This is a problem for me. One of the services is called ties, bow ties, and ascots.
Ooh.
We got to stop buying Christmas, birthdays. We got to stop buying all these video games, $60,000, $80,000. $60 and $80 video games, but your son or your man or your boo thing, whoever, he don't have 4 ties.
Right.
Or you got a grown man wearing a clip-on. We ain't doing that. Grown man shouldn't be wearing a clip-on. A grown man should start wearing a clip-on at the age of about 12. So teaching men how to tie a tie, at least 3 ways to tie a tie. Every man should know how to tie a bow tie. And we should know how to wear an ascot. It's called diversification. Is what it's called. So providing those services and those things build skill sets. It goes back to the self-help. Self-help is I'm going to help you.
Well, and self-esteem, right? Builds your self-esteem. And like you were saying, if you don't feel good about yourself, I mean, nobody else is going to feel good about you, right?
And it portrays confidence. When you walk in a room and you're confident, then you can command the space, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
And that's correct. Deion Sanders feel good, look good, dress good. We know his thing. And then for me, it goes back to those things that your grandma man taught you and taught us. Where not only should all men, in my opinion, or sons, pretty much wear ties, bow ties, and ascots, but every man needs to know how to drive a stick shift as well as a manual car as well. Why? You never know when you're gonna have to go protect those groceries. You never know when you're in a situation. So it's just all about, once again, being sure that we're in those positions to be sure we're in positions of stature, but not just stature because of who your mama and your grandma and them knew, because there is no fake it till you make it. I wasn't in Washington just by chance. I wasn't in Washington just to twirl my thumbs. But I think at the end of the day, for me, it's also being sure that I do not forget where I come from, and that I continue to be that model, not only for my kids, Zion Welcher, Hawthorne Welcher III, shout out to my wife Shantanette as well, but I continue once again to forge that yellow brick road. I'm giving my life to community. I don't know if you can see the logo. But the logo sort of speaks to, there is a hand. It's a left hand holding up a city embraced by the bow tie. That's the logo. We got to get you all some merchandise.
Love it, man.
Love it.
I love it. And you're a smart dude, man. You made a shout out for your wife before you got off this call, boy. You better. What?
Yes, sir.
You've been around some preachers in your life, boy.
All day long. Yes, sir.
So, man, I think it's pretty awesome. I love everything that you're doing with your career in terms of affordable housing. I love where you're going with the nonprofit left-handed principles, and just the your passion about being passionate. And Michelle, I don't know if you have any, as we close down, you have anything you'd like to share before we give Hawthorne the last words as we get ready to close it down?
I can. I'll just freestyle. I'll give you pretty much just, I guess, three quotes or three sayings. The first one I'll just say is pressure is a privilege. Pressure will always be a privilege. The second thing that I'll say is no pressure, no diamonds, and that's KNOW. If you know pressure, then you're actually gonna know diamonds. The third thing that I'll say is, may your sacrifice always be greater than your reward. And the last thing that I'll say is, don't you ever in your life apologize for being great.
That's awesome.
That's it.
Yeah.
Michelle?
That's it.
That's it.
You turning your passion into profit. There you go.
Absolutely. And you know what I appreciate that last one is, do not apologize for being great.
Being great.
There's no, God has done so much for all of us and many of us, and and let me just talk about me. What He's done in my life and the things that God has allowed me to accomplish by serving His people. But it's not just that, but I mean, I know my stuff, and
That's right.
And I don't apologize for that. And it's so interesting you said that, because I felt like, I'm not going to dummy down,
right?
So someone else can feel good,
That's correct.
And then I want to surround myself with people who are smarter than me so that I can grow.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's what it's all about. So, man, I appreciate you taking the time. I know when we did the radio interview, man, you were in the airport. You were in the airport on your way. We had so many technical difficulties with this new equipment at the radio station, but you were gracious to jump on a little bit later. And, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate everything that you shared today, your passion for it. And we want to keep the relationship going. We want to keep it going and continue to, watch what you're doing. If we could support it in some kind of way, We want to do that, and just thank you for being passionate. Your information is on the screen now for if anybody wants to reach out to Hawthorne Welcher Jr. Please do that. And man, again, just thank you for being here, and everybody else, thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to see you next week, same time, same place, right here, as we continue to bring you the very best in our community as we talk about real money coaching, real issues that deal with real people, our community. So with that, good night, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Blessings.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right.